That's a quite.
So,
hey, Chris.
Did you know that Megadeth did a cover of the Duke Nukem theme song at some point?
No, I did not know that. That's a little weird.
Let's just do this on piece of cake. Hey everyone, it's Chris.
They said piece of cake. Like, come on. Bubblegum. That should be the difficulty level. Bubblegum.
And it's Gary.
Yeah.
So, fun fact.
So,
So,
exploding barrels.
yeah, we're playing.
There we go. I was like, what? I was like,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
right.
sure those blow up.
So we're playing Duke Nukem 3D. This is the Duke Nukem 3D World Tour, and we are going to be discussing action movies and action stars and action tropes and blah 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 blah. Because it's a lot of fun, right?
And we just had our favorite trope: exploding barrels.
Yeah, didn't take very long to get there, right? Oh, here we go. Hey.
We actually had this game, I think, for the N64.
Oh, really?
It played horribly. The N64 was not really designed for first-person shooters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark kind of figured it out, but it was very there was not much room for error with the controls.
Yeah. So last week we were talking about like horror movies and horror tropes. Fun fact, Gary, I don't know if you'll know this or not, but the character of Duke Nukem, especially his dialogue and all that, is actually based pretty obviously on Rowdy Randy, what's his name, the professional wrestler, who starred in John Carpenter's They Live, which was a horror movie. So really, it's actually a horror movie that kind of gave birth to the sort of tropes that Duke Nukem became.
Huh.
Even though the character himself is like pretty obviously based on sort of like 80s, testosterone driven, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Sylvester Stallone.
yeah, Rambo kind of movies and all that.
Who's John-Claude Van Damme to some extent.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
Van
much
Damme.
more limited, but still there.
Van Damme is a very underappreciated action hero, in
Because
my
like
opinion.
he was the only one that was actually like a trained fighter. Also, I think.
Yeah, like he actually knew how to,
Yeah, he wasn't
Kill
pretending
people.
to be a badass.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, like the fact that he can actually do all of the crazy like roundhouse kicks and all that good stuff. Yeah, like the dude is actually hard.
Yeah, like he was in a movie called In Hell that it's not a good movie, but it's one of those that I really enjoy. It's all about
Oh, really?
a Russian prison, and he becomes they fight the prisoners for sport, and he becomes one of the fighters.
I kind of remember that movie. I remember not being like super sold
Yeah,
on
it's
it.
nothing
but-
special, but it's got like a special place in my heart for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. But yeah, like I said, action movies.
How
here.
lonely was that guy behind that wall?
I
Just
know,
hoping
right?
that somebody would open it.
I know, right? Flip that switch. Oh my.
Would somebody please think of the children?
Yeah, so when I say action movie, Gary, what's one of the first things that you tend to think of?
I tend to think of Terminator 2.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
like my granddaddy of action movies, really.
Well, I tend to think of a little franchise starring Bruce Willis by the name of Die Hard. How do I do this? Forgot the controls.
I swear, guys, this is my first time. It's the
Oh,
first time
that's
this-
it. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Anyway, yeah, Die Hard.
Oh, Die Hard classic.
Yeah. And with that, so Gary, you've seen all but like the fifth one. Oh
Yes.
my goodness!
Wow. You have died.
I have died. This game actually has a really handy thing here where it actually like you can just kind of play back the game. Like
I'm honestly not sure how I feel about that.
no, it's really handy because it just kind of like makes it so that
It's easy.
yeah, it's super easy. But
But yeah, I've seen all of them. I definitely was not necessarily a fan of the fourth one.
well,
Because he becomes like too much of a superhero by that point.
Well, either way, before we get any further, why don't we get into a category that we forgot to bring up in last week's video that I like to call one-word breakdowns.
Okay.
And Gary, your category is Die Hard movies.
Okay.
So we're going to start with the first one, obviously, Die Hard.
Tight.
Tight.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Die Hard 2.
Let's rock.
I would describe that as what's the right word? Logical, like, progressive.
Second one?
Yeah. And well, I mean, I know we're not supposed to explain it, but I mean, it was a logical progression of what they had done with the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Fun.
Yeah. Okay. I don't disagree. And then Live Free or Die Hard.
Convoluted.
Okay. And well, I guess you never saw
Unappealing. I guess would be the word to describe it.
and I guess you never saw the why am I even forgetting what it's called? The fifth one. What was it? Yeah.
Well, that's what I meant. That was the unappealing one.
Oh, okay.
Because I've seen 4.
Yeah. So
yeah, and 4 was convoluted.
Yeah. I can definitely see there. Oh man.
But yeah, I mean,
Sensitivity
that's what I
is
meant
high.
by like he became like a superhero, like taking out a helicopter with a car. That wasn't what he was. He was just a guy in an extreme situation, like surviving in the first couple.
Yeah, so I want to talk about something about action movies that I feel like is kind of integral to action movies that star regular like people, not superheroes or anything like that, but just like regular dudes, and that is vulnerability. So one of the problems that a lot of people have with things like Die Hard 4, separately from Die Hard 1 and 3, is the fact that he becomes like a superhero. He can just kind of do anything and kick all of the butt, and he's just unstoppable. And I would argue that vulnerability to a certain point is what makes those types of characters and those types of movies more engaging. The fact that the first Die Hard was just him like getting cut up all over the place and then just proceeding anyway because he had to do it. That's what made the character really, really engaging.
Yeah, and like in Vengeance, he's hungover. He didn't want to be there. But he popped some aspirin and he got the job done.
Yeah.
And he got his butt kicked the whole time.
Yeah. And the same thing with like, oh man, I don't want to die again. Oh, dang it!
This really pisses me off.
I would say the same thing with the original Mad Max. He got like pretty messed up. Like it was in the first movie that come on. There we go. All right. It was in the first movie that he got like his kneecap blown off with a shotgun and all that. And, he continued moving on. It was just really savage and really brutal. Whereas, as much as I love Mad Max Fury Road, he's just kind of like unkillable. There are a couple of scenes in the movie where he gets pretty grievously injured and nothing happened.
There's no consequences.
Yeah. And again, the movie is still great, but it is admittedly a problem with the movie. So would you agree with that sort of assessment that you need to have your characters actually be like human?
Yeah, or else they're not relatable. Like Terminator, they found a way around that by he's not human.
Yeah.
But then he's also not fighting humans. He's fighting something more. Mm-hmm. Or I guess that's Terminator 2, really. But like that's what I mean is like he was still the weaker of the two, so you could sense that vulnerability and identify with him.
Yeah. That's true.
But I think next on the list is Lethal Weapon movies.
Well, yeah. So have you seen like a lot of the Lethal Weapon
I've
movies?
seen all of them, but not in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. It's been a long time. I've seen all of them technically, but I remember very little about them. The reason why I wrote that down was, hey guy.
Or I guess, is there a new Lethal Weapon like the last 10 years that I'm forgetting about?
Well, there's the crappy TV show.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess I just assume it's crappy. I haven't watched it.
Yeah,
but,
okay. But yeah, the movies, I think they're all like 20 years old and I haven't seen them.
Yeah. I think the most recent one was Lethal Weapon 4, which itself was like 1999 or something like that. Blow that up.
Where is it?
Oh, I gotta remember to do this. button switches. Button switch puzzles. But yeah, I basically just wanted to bring up Lethal Weapon because it is a staple of the action movie franchise. Even though we don't have a lot to say about it, just because we don't remember it very well, you can't talk about action movies without talking about Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
So that's why I put that on there. But with that, let's move on. There we go. Okay.
Well, our next two on our list is John Wick and Atomic Blonde, which obviously those will be separate conversations.
Yeah, so the reason why I put those two together was because they're kind of like brother-sister movies to a certain degree. Because, like, Atomic Blonde was arguably made into what it was because the people who made John Wick said, let's take what we did with John Wick and apply it to this movie. Because Charlize Theron even said that, like, the movie had been in, like, on the drawing board, in production, and, like, kind of being thought out for years. But they never really got any, like, actual clear, like, image or anything like that in mind. And it was when David Leitch, I think was the guy's name, came forward and was like, all right, let's do this. Let's make it very stunt driven. Let's make it a big action spectacle and all that. And that's what made Atomic Blonde work. What made Atomic Blonde not work in some places were the really, really, really overly convoluted plot points. You haven't seen it, right?
No.
Okay. I like the movie. Overall, the takeaway was that it's a good movie. Yeah, overall, like, the story was just kind of like, wait, what happened? I don't know. But, it ended mostly satisfying, and the action set pieces were good, and it was very stylized, and it worked. So, in the end, it was a good movie. Even if it had, like, real, like, convoluted plot problems. Oh, my. Let's get this out. There we go. There we go. And there we go. All right, that's better. And yeah, John Wick is pretty solid. You want to talk about John Wick? You said you just saw that pretty recently, right?
Well, I've seen it before, but I actually just got, had bad insomnia and I needed to watch something, and I picked John Wick. Yeah, I mean, there's something about those action scenes that really appeal to me. Just like, he is still vulnerable. Like, he gets shot. He's on a mission, though.
Yep.
And they constantly say in the movie, he's this, like, master of focus. Mm-hmm. And that's where his abilities come from. So, like, he'll pull off, like, 9, 10 headshots in a row, but that doesn't prevent him from also getting stabbed and pushed off a ledge.
Yeah, like, when he gets shot, he still has to deal with being shot.
Yeah.
Like, I remember one of the scenes in the movie was the doctor telling him, like, all right, whenever, stuff hits the fan and you gotta go to work, take these tablets, your staples are gonna rip, you're gonna be in horrible agony, everything is gonna go horribly wrong, but here you go.
Yeah, you'll still be able to work.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that really spoke to the character. Like, he gets beat up. Like, the beginning of the movie, like, what instigates the problem in the story is he gets his butt kicked.
Yeah, that's a good point.
By some punks who don't even deserve to be in the same breath as him.
Yeah. I didn't really think about that, but that's
then,
totally true.
he, like, focuses and, he gets captured. He's not immune from getting captured, but he finds ways out of it. And, the whole time, though, he progressively gets more bruised throughout the movie. He doesn't walk away clean like, say, James Bond does.
Right.
And so it's really interesting to see him pull off, like, 9 headshots in a row. He doesn't just turn his body, he would just turn the gun. So he'd pull off no-look shots, knowing where the guys would be coming from, to show how aware he is of his surroundings.
Like the gun katas in Equilibrium?
Yeah. I mean, that movie has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I still like Equilibrium.
Yeah, I still like it, but I do think the action in, like, John Wick is really superb.
So one of the reasons why the action in John Wick works really, really, really well is because it is really stylized. It's really, really, like, over the top and crazy. But also, it's still relatively grounded in realism. It's still, like, believable.
No single thing he does do I think, oh, that's impossible. Now, granted, the quick succession, like, no one could do everything he does, but any one thing somebody could do.
Right. Oh no, I'm going to prison.
But I also like the fact that, he wore a bulletproof vest. Like, He didn't just like walk into a room without a bulletproof vest, thinking like, "Ah, I'm good."
Yeah, that's true. And you haven't seen the second one yet, have you?
No, I've seen the end, which has led me to a theory that I want to put on record in case I'm right, that Ian McShane's character is his father. And, the ending of the second one is a bit of my evidence, and also the fact that Ian McShane's character calls other people by, like, Mr. or Mrs., but John Wick he calls Jonathan. So
yeah, I never actually, because you were telling me about that a minute ago, or like before we started recording this, and I honestly had not heard that. I didn't know that was like a theory.
No, I mean it's my theory. Like I haven't heard it anywhere else.
Oh,
but also another bit of evidence that I'm theorizing is, Ian McShane's character, from a profit perspective, wants as many people staying in his hotel as possible, right?
Yeah.
He tries to talk John Wick out of like coming back. When they first meet at the Continental in that bar. He's like, "Are you sure you want to come back to this life?"
Yeah, that's true.
So, is that kind of concern you'd have for your child, maybe?
Well, okay, let's further discuss that, because that is an interesting idea that you bring up, and that's that, is he in it for profit, or is he in it just because like that's something that is just part of that life, that whole like secret underground world of assassins? Like, was he running that hotel to make money, or is it just because, well, you need a hotel in this industry, so you might as well run it?
Well, yeah, but still, why would you try and talk somebody out of coming back to life unless you had some?
Yeah, there is a sort of sense
he's got some, something in the game. Like he has some affection for John for some reason.
Right. Yeah,
he likes him more than other people.
Mm-hmm. So I do think that the second one is probably a better movie overall, but I think that the first one does a lot better job of like building not the world, but building the character, like introducing you to the story. The first one does a much better job of it.
Okay.
The second one, you can kind of tell they were like, well, how do we start this? Well, logically, we would just start it exactly where we left off. Well, okay. Because it kind of does. It kind of just, like, starts...
So it goes after his car?
Yes. Like, that's literally the start of the second
Okay, I figured.
But, like, once that all gets dealt with, and he needs to deal with sort of, like... The other thing that makes the second one good is that it's kind of an extension of the repercussions of his actions in the first movie. Because I don't want to spoil anything, and I don't want to give away any plot details, but a lot of it is predicated on this idea of you lived this life and you decided to leave it, but now you're back in it of your own choosing, and so now you need to deal with this. And again,
like you made enemies and
Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's really, really well established. And then they do a really good job of the world building of the sort of like secret underground world of the like assassins and all that. Mm-hmm. It's really, really well established, actually, and really engaging. Like every character, like there are businesses for everything that happens for all of the characters, and they're all like, oh yeah, you actually need that in that world, and things like that. Can I? I don't think I can. Okay. I was seeing if I could like disarm that or something, but
destroy it?
Probably. Oh. But anyway, and yeah, the second one I really feel like ends a lot better. It's got very much a sort of, Empire Strikes Back sort of ending where it's very dark. It's a very, very dark ending.
Kind of reminded me of the Dark Knight's ending.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit.
Because I've seen the ending. People were confused by my. Like, I've seen the ending, but I haven't seen the whole movie.
Yeah, you really should watch the movie.
Yeah, I want to. It's definitely on my list. But, yeah, just the fact that, like, he had to run and he had enemies that were going to come for him.
Yeah.
Maybe not the same, like, they're going to actually know who I am kind of thing.
Right.
Like, Batman was able to just hide, but... Which, that was not the original ending for The Dark Knight. Like, that was... Had the Joker... Had Heath Ledger not died... the third Batman movie would have probably started like a year later, and he wouldn't have retired. Like, Heath Ledger dying changed the intended story of The Dark Knight, from what I've heard.
I didn't actually know that, but it doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah.
Asses.
Like, it forced them to rethink the universe, which I sometimes wonder if that's had the adverse effect on The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, well, I had even heard that, like... The Joker was supposed to be in Dark Knight Rises a lot more, but obviously they just couldn't put him in there. But anyway, let's talk more about just like classic action movies.
All right, so next on our list, you have Haywire and Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah. So, well, I did that specifically in that order because we were talking about David Leitch, who did John Wick, and then who later on went on to do Atomic Blonde, and there are a lot of like awesome female action heroes that don't get enough attention that really deserve it. And one, which was a more recent movie, was Haywire, starring Gina Carano. I think that was actually like one of the first movies that she ever starred in.
Yeah, I think it was like her second acting credit.
I think it might even be her first. But she did a really good job with it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Haywire was actually a pretty decent movie. Like it did a really good job of kind of like sucking you in with that first fight scene that happens between her and Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another movie that, like John Wick, did a really, really good job of blending style and realism like into a believable package. Yeah, I really liked Haywire quite a bit, and I think that's kind of an underappreciated movie.
The movie you don't have here, I thought Hannah was an action movie with the
yeah.
female lead that
Yeah,
it
that was a
wasn't
good one.
like spectacular, but it was very solid.
Yeah,
and
Hannah's
it was
good.
kind of a unique shtick.
Yeah, it was like a modern German action movie fairy tale, which is, on paper
She was
kind
like
of a
the
weird
princess out in the woods.
Yeah, which on paper is kind of a weird niche category, but it works. Yeah, it works in the movie.
Then The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, and The Long Kiss Goodnight was one of the earlier sort of like female action hero. Where's the red key?
Oh, things that haven't been said in video games in 20 years.
I know, right? Screw it. Whatever. Let's just exit.
Futurama. You need the blue key to continue.
Oh, I can't even do that? Oh, dang it.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, The Long Kiss Goodnight was really, really good. That was, why am I forgetting her name?
What else was she in?
She was the mom in Stuart Little.
Oh god, I'm blanking. I know who that is, but I need you to give me another.
She was also in Thelma and Louise.
Oh, Google. You ready for your one-word breakdown?
Oh, yeah, hit me.
All right, well, this is going to be Fast and the Furious movies.
Got this. I got it in the bag. Bring it on.
So, the original Fast and the Furious.
No, I got a word for this. Okay.
All right, now, for some odd reason, they never did a Fast and the Furious 2. So, Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
No, Gary. We're not cheating here.
Okay. But no, I think Chris and I both highly advise if you have not watched the franchise, skip Fast and Furious 2 and watch Tokyo Drift after the 6th movie.
Correct.
And it works a lot better. My wife had never seen the movies, and I showed them to her in that order. And Tokyo Drift made a lot more sense, and she was able to enjoy it more than I think you could if you watched it in the production order.
Right.
And we're both convinced that the plot of the 4th movie doesn't make sense if they paid attention to the 2nd movie at all.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense, like, how he's back being a federal agent.
Yep.
So...
But, we're not skipping over this, and we gotta stay focused. So one-word breakdowns, and the next one is Too Fast, Too Furious, and it's bad. It's a bad movie. It's bad. There's just no excuse for it.
If you look up bad in the dictionary...
It's just a picture of Tokyo Drift. Or, I'm sorry,
Too Fast, Furious.
Of Too Fast, Too Furious.
They wanted to put Tokyo Drift, but Too Fast.
You know what? Look up idiot in the dictionary. You know what you'll find?
A picture of me?
No! The definition of the word idiot, which you fucking are.
Alright. So, Gina Davis, by the way.
Thank you! That's what it was.
And if you had told me A League of Their Own, I would have got that.
Ah, okay.
Alright, so,
anyway,
now Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift. Goofy.
Alright, so then that was Fast 4? Or no, 2... What was the title? I know it's Fast 5.
It's just...
Furious... Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you ready for this? So the first one is called The Fast and the Furious, and the fourth one is called Fast and Furious.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna say like Final Fantasy's naming and numbering system is confusing. And really, the producers of Fast and Furious are like, we're going to top that. We're going to find a way to top that. And they've succeeded, folks.
But anyway, so Fast and Furious, I'm going to say forgettable.
Yeah. The great contribution, I think, of that movie is adding Gal Gadot and Han to the cast.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, no, Han
that was the first one Han was in.
Well, he was technically he was in the third one.
Yeah, they added him to the ensemble.
Yeah, chronologically speaking, it was like, within the span of the sort of like big overarching picture, the big deal. It was the first one that Han was in.
Because there's not necessarily like years given in the movies. I always thought that, like when I first saw the movies, that Han had actually survived Tokyo Drift somehow, and they were going to reveal how that occurred.
Had you seen Tokyo Drift before you saw the other ones?
I had seen it a while before. Like, I'd seen bits and pieces of it. I'd never seen it the whole way through. But I knew that he was supposedly going to die. And then when he appeared in 4, I was like, oh, he must have survived somehow.
Hey guys, spoiler alert for the Fast and the Furious movies.
Guys, if you haven't figured out we're going to spoil these things for you by now. But yeah, so I thought it was like they were eventually going to reveal how he survived.
Okay.
And he was like talking about going back because he was hearing what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so now Fast 5.
Awesome.
Yes. I think we both think that's the best in the series, right?
I think it depends
Most enjoyable, maybe?
I think it depends on how you look at it. It is. I really think it's inarguable. I don't think that you can argue this point. It is the one that made the franchise big again.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It was like a niche franchise that could have ended at any time, really.
And it set the standard for it. Like all the format and the sort of like structure of all of the movies after that were built around Furious 5.
Yeah.
Or Fast 5. Thank you.
All right. So what? Furious 6.
It's a tough one for me.
It's a hard one to place.
It's the one with the tank.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'll go with entertaining.
Okay.
It was entertaining.
Then what was 7 called?
Furious 7.
Furious. Oh, so what was 6 called?
6th one was called Fast and Furious 6.
Oh my god. Okay. All right.
Don't ask me why I know all these things by heart.
Yeah. All right. So 7.
Furious 7.
Oh.
I'm gonna go with respectful.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a respectful movie.
All right. And then Fate
in more ways than one.
Yeah, Fate of the Furious.
Fate of the Furious.
I really hope the next one's called 9 Lives of the Furious. Or 9 Lives of the Fast. 9 Lives in the Fast Lane.
The next Die Hard movie had better be called Live and Let Die Hard.
Yeah,
just
I know,
saying.
right?
But anyway, let's see here. I'm gonna go with Shameless.
Oh god, yes.
It has no shame.
All right, people.
But it just works.
Into context, the fastest submarine can go about 45 miles an hour on the surface if like everything is just perfect. In ice, slower. And it was keeping up with souped up muscle cars driven by experts. I'm just, yeah.
But yeah, Fate of the Furious was it's one of the dumber ones. It's got a lot in common with the most recent Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible 5, where it's like one of the more shallow ones, but it walks the line between like dumb and entertaining well enough to make it entertaining.
It's almost like fan service too. Like they bring as many people back as you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Like Yeah, I think almost every character still alive in the franchise that you knew has come back. But okay. So, I mean, really, that's a good covering of that topic. I mean, my favorite's Fast Five. I think, like Chris said, it really set the standard for what they were going to do in the future.
Yeah, it kind of did.
I do think they weathered the storm of losing a star better than most movie franchises could have hoped. I do think that they're running out of stuff to do, and it seems like there's definitely some trouble on set between some of the stars. So I wonder how much longer they're going to be able to manage.
Yeah, like I read something that Tyrese Gibson is like refusing to do the next movie if Dwayne Johnson is involved with it.
Yeah,
because I guess like they've got a really big feud going on right now.
Yeah, like The Rock's got a beef with Vin Diesel also, so like.
Let's go back to the whole like Atomic Blonde and all that, because Charlize Theron is in Fate of the Furious.
Oh yes, I forgot.
Somebody asked her in an interview, like, so what was going on with all the drama around the set? And she was like, honestly, I don't really know, because I was there for like 5 days. And,
and she was only on like 2 of the sets, really.
Yeah, she was only in the scenes with like Vin Diesel. She wasn't really there with Dwayne Johnson like at all ever. So she was like, I don't really know, but she made it sound like it was kind of blown a little bit more out of proportion than excuse me, thank you, than a lot of like outlets would kind of lead you to believe, which is kind of what I'm thinking is maybe going on with the whole Dwayne Johnson and Tyrese Gibson thing. I'm wondering if that's just kind of like them blowing it out of hey.
Well, and it's Hollywood too. Like this could even just be a ploy to get more money.
Yeah, that's true. Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, and if it's like, I'm not coming back to the franchise. Well, what if we quadruple your salary? I'll come back. Because, I mean, like, this isn't movies, but, like, the Polly Perrette, the girl who plays Abby on NCIS, she was going to leave after this season. Somehow they talked her into coming back.
I heard something.
I'm sure it was a couple zeros on that contract.
I heard something about how, like, she was leaving the show or something, and because I've got, like, one friend who's really into that show, and she was mad to hear about her leaving, and I was like, I haven't heard anything about it, but I also don't follow news of that show because I don't watch that show.
That was a show that they really did a good job of replacing female leads. I haven't watched it since, I can't remember the actor's name, but he played Tony DiNozzo. I haven't watched it since he left the show. I'm intrigued if they could replace him, because his interactions with the other characters really drove the plot, like the side plots of their interactions, like their lives. Which really, that's why you watch those shows. You don't watch it for the crime procedural. You watch it for the guy who is dating somebody way out of his league. Or...
Yeah. So like to go back to actual like action.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No, that's cool. I feel like a show that has action in it. Well, we won't talk about a huge amount here, but it was just what you were talking about there. Good TV dramas are not built on the procedural drama and all that. They're built on the characters. And a good show that was aware of that was a show called Southland.
Yes.
Which was a really good like LA-based cop drama. I love Southland.
It wasn't about like finding the murder and thing. I mean, there were episodes about that, but it wasn't like the show wasn't about them doing their job. It was about their lives.
Yeah. And that kind of leads me to an action movie, and from an action director who's pretty well established right now. Leads me to End of Watch and David Ayer. I'm a really big fan of David Ayer, despite the sort of like hit or miss. Where in the heck? Sorry, I'm lost. But anyway, yeah, David Ayer, because he made End of Watch, which was a really, really good movie. You're a pretty big fan of David Ayer, right?
Mm-hmm. He's done quite a few movies I really liked. I actually watched a little bit of one of his movies the other day too, Fury. Fury's
great.
Which is one of my favorite World War II movies, but then also End of Watch is great. The movies that he's made that weren't necessarily that good, 2 of them I have read about producer interference, and that's Suicide Squad and Sabotage. And one movie that he did Street Kings. I get the impression there was producer interference. I haven't heard anything definitively, but I think when you let him make a movie, it works out. And it looks like his next movie, which comes out in a few days, Bright, is going to be maybe. It honestly, to me, it looks like it could be the best thing Netflix has ever released.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Like,
I really don't.
Everything I see makes me think that movie's going to be like a classic of the buddy cop genre.
Yeah. So it's like what you were saying. When David Ayer is given creative control, creative freedom, he makes good movies. Like, the guy's good at his job.
Which boggles my mind why you wouldn't give him that. Like, that's his track record.
Yeah. Because
this is going to be the one time it works out.
Yeah, when he made End of Watch, he was like, I want to make a cop drama. And I want to make my cop drama, this way. And the studio was like, okay, do that.
Here's
and
$60 million.
So he did that. Yeah, so he did that, and it was a great movie, and everybody loved it. When they made next up Sabotage, he was like, hey, I've got this idea for like a sort of reimagining of an Agatha Christie novel, and then there were none. That was the name of the story. And they were like, okay, do that. And he went, great, so here are my ideas and this and that. And they were like, oh, hold on. We're going to change this thing over here, all of this. We need to take these out. Oh, and then change the ending.
And it needs to be an hour shorter.
Yeah. They cut an hour or an hour and a half out of the movie, very famously. And then they changed the ending. And then they wondered why the movie got critically panned.
Yeah, and really, like, how often does telling a director to cut arbitrarily, like, a length of time, make a movie better? Like, yeah, you might get, like, one or two more... You might get one more showing a day of it. But if it makes it a crap movie, is that really worth the money?
Now, sometimes, forgive me because I'm not coming up with any, like, really good examples. Sometimes studios are right. Sometimes movies are just too long and you need to...
Yeah, like, I think The Town... like originally collecting it over like 4 hours, and they made him cut it, and it was still able to be a good movie. Yeah. But like this whole like arbitrary, like unless the movie is over 3 hours, like I think you should just trust your director. And if it's over 3 hours, then yeah, like tell him to cut time, but don't tell him what to cut.
Yeah. That's the thing. So they changed so many things about Sabotage, and that made it a bad movie. So then, flash forward a couple of years, and then he's like, hey, I want to make this World War II, drama action movie called Fury. And the studio was like, okay, do that. And he just made it the way that he was supposed to do it. And it was a great movie,
Let's put this thing into perspective. It's a good movie that Shia LaBeouf was in. You know how hard that is? David Ayer did it.
I'm genuinely lost right now. I do not know where I'm supposed to go.
Me, man. Ask one of the guys you just killed. I mean, they live there. They must know where it is.
Hold on. Oh, I remember.
Clever.
I remember this now. Okay.
But
anyway, yeah. So after Fury got made, the studio was like, "Hey, we want you to make our next DC movie. It's going to be Suicide Squad, and it's going to be like a gritty, hardcore. And it was originally supposed to be R-rated, right? Action movie that was supposed to have the same sort of like attitude that End of Watch and Fury had and all that.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it was going to be R-rated, but it wasn't going to be like the comedy. And the comedic elements got added after the fact, after Deadpool was such a success.
Yeah.
But as I think we tore this apart in our DC conversation, it doesn't work if like you basically have to reshoot the entire movie to add the comedy because a joke has 3 parts, and it's really hard to work those 3 parts back in after the fact.
They changed the entire movie by doing those reshoots, and that just made it inconsistent as heck. Now, I honestly do think, too, though, that like as much as I love David Ayer, I think that the core of the story still had a convolution problem. I think that they still had a bunch of characters that were just not necessary to...
you gotta wonder, like, did he want to include Killer Croc?
Yeah. Like,
or did they tell him, like, we plan on using him for a future movie, you need to introduce him?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know that he wrote it. Like, he got the writing credit for the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know what ideas were his and what ideas were...
I mean, I know they made him leave... Like, Jared Leto has said he filmed so much for the Joker that you could make a Joker movie. So obviously David Ayer had a vision that they didn't let him fulfill.
Yeah. Tell you what though, because we're getting like we've already talked about this a lot in our DC video. So
let's move on to James Bond movies.
Yeah. So what's the best James Bond movie?
Casino Royale.
Agreed. Who is the best James Bond?
I'm biased, but I would say Daniel Craig. Until the last movie, I think he's kind of phoning it in now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't actually seen Spectre. You've seen it?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Why? I haven't seen it, so I know nothing about it.
It's totally forgettable.
Okay.
Like, it kind of went old school Bond, where, like, he gets captured and then the villain tells him his plan just enough, and then he escapes, obviously, so he can ruin it.
Okay.
And so it's like, you're taking one of the, like, that had its place, but, that concept has been mocked so much, it's time to let it go away.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, I didn't want to, even, like, Quantum of Solace, which had a lot of problems, Solace had a lot of problems, I wanted to watch it again. I didn't want to watch Spectre again.
Really?
It was really long, drawn out, and it was just like this. I don't know, like it was kind of same shtick as what was it, Skyfall, where like this guy behind the scenes has been ruining his life, and it's just another guy behind the guy.
Yeah,
and it's time to just quit having there be another guy.
Yeah, that has been there the whole time.
Yeah,
like that gets pretty pretty fast.
And I mean, to be honest, like. The problems I had with Skyfall, they just like accentuated them in Spectre.
Really?
And yeah, like the guy behind the guy, and then like, oh, let's talk about his past a lot. Like, no. But I mean, and I think also just his performance. I think he was really committed to Casino Royale. I don't see that same level of commitment from Daniel Craig in his performance.
Well, he had to make a big impression for Casino Royale because it was his first one.
And he was pretty criticized, if I recall, when he was cast, because he wasn't British. He's
British.
He's Australian or whatever.
No, Daniel Craig is super British.
Is he?
Like, have you seen him talk? Yeah, he's really British.
I remember he got criticized for...
He got criticized for really crappy reasons. So here's what he got criticized for. One, he was kind of an unestablished actor. Like, he didn't have a lot to his name. The biggest thing that he had was that movie Layer Cake, right? But here's the big thing. James Bond, historically speaking, before that, had always been like a really tall, buff, hairy, brown-haired guy. And Daniel Craig is like 5'10", 5'9", or 5'10", and blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Well, so basically, James Bond elitists threw a big ol' hissy fit about how just some short little, like, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy got the part of James Bond.
Okay.
That's true. You can look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you. I'm just saying, like, he definitely got heavily criticized. I mean, that was why he was more committed. But by, like, after, like, Casino Royale, he had so much cred that maybe he didn't have that same level of commitment. I don't know, but I just did not feel, like, as enthralled. And don't get me wrong, there was definitely story elements too. I think each Bond has like one really good movie that stands above all the rest. And unfortunately for Brosnan and Daniel Craig, it's been their first one.
Yeah.
Because I think GoldenEye was by far the best Pierce Brosnan. Like, it's not even a contest to me.
Yeah. Well, like the other ones are all just like generic and forgettable. Like what? Tomorrow Never Dies. And The World Is Not Enough. Like, those are the same movie to me. I don't even remember either one.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there's like an ice castle in one of them.
That's Die Another Day. That one I remember, but I remember it because it's really bad.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I mean, is like, they're all forgettable. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. The James Bond movies have their place. It's great to see these, and they're great barometers for the evolution of the action hero, I think. Because while they're all similar in their own right of this like professional spy, they do take cues from other successful action movies of the day. So you can really see the evolution of action movies with them.
Yeah.
Because like, Pierce Brosnan was that like invulnerable guy who never got hurt, whereas Daniel Craig, he gets the crap kicked out of him several times in Casino.
Yeah. Going back to the vulnerability of actual people. helps to make those characters more engaging.
Like, it's painful just to even think about, like, the torture scene where Daniel Craig gets tortured.
Right.
And, I mean, the torture thing, because, torture was, like, big in the news in the mid-2000s because of Abu Ghraib, and, it was on the mind of, the world audience. Like, torture is bad. Obviously, torture is always bad, but it was definitely something that was very conscious in the psyche of the world. But, okay, I get why you had this next one after James Bond, but I think we should segue over to the American James Bond, the unabashedly American James Bond, Jason Bourne.
All right. Yeah.
Because, honestly, the original Jason Bourne trilogy is my favorite trilogy of any movie series.
And that's what I was kind of hoping Taken was going to become for me, but then the third Taken movie just ruined it for me.
And we discussed at end, like, what a third Taken movie could be.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they overheard a conversation and did the exact opposite.
Yeah.
To their detriment, because, it was barely tied at all to the events of the first two movies.
It just wasn't. Like, the characters...
The only tie was that the bad guy was, like, the stepdad that was introduced in the first movie.
Yeah.
But what really annoyed me about that was, Liam Neeson's character says he checked the guy out, and then somehow he overlooked the fact that this guy's, like, a criminal.
Yeah, like a criminal on an international level.
Yeah.
Like, associated with, like, Russian monsters and all that.
One of my big problems is when you change a character to fit the plot. And that's what Taken 3 did.
Yeah. Taken 3... Well, and Taken 3 was also just a really, like, rushed, shoddily produced and developed movie that was, none of the action scenes were memorable. There was not a single scene where I was like, yeah, that was really cool.
It was so much worse than the others about the whole, like, guys would just stand on the out of a fight waiting for Liam Neeson to beat one guy. They'd fight him one at a time versus ganging up on him.
Yeah.
And, like, don't get me wrong, that happened to a certain extent in the first one or two, but not nearly to the extent it happened in 3. But to go back to, like, Jason Bourne, I mean, like I said, my favorite trilogy. And, I mean, I really think, this dark, gritty, like, fight scenes that, we'd seen them before, but maybe not by, like, a secret agent. And then the fact that you were going on the journey he was of trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we don't need to get too deep into it, but I just, I definitely didn't really care for the new one. I think they just called it Jason Bourne.
Yeah. I didn't like that one at all either.
Like, Tommy Lee Jones was not good in it. It was based. Oh, here's my problem. If you're gonna, it's a carbon copy of the Bourne Supremacy, which by all accounts is the weakest of the original trilogy. So why are you copying the weakest of the original trilogy?
Yeah, for sure.
But next, Kingsman.
Tell you what, actually, because we're coming up on an hour again.
Wow. Okay.
I know, right? So we might need to just save this conversation for another video.
Yeah, we will.
Let us know if you would like to hear more of this particular conversation. We will talk more about the whole, like, secret agent, James Bond, Jason Bourne, Jack Bauer. That's a lot of JBs, right?
Yeah. And then get some JCs with Jackie Chan.
Oh, jeez, we forgot. Oh my God, yeah, we got to do a part.
We will definitely do a second part for action movies, the same way we did Shooters.
And I'll not get stuck here. If you were actually watching this video, I'm so sorry that you saw me just run around in circles for the last 15 minutes because I'm lost. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right now. But it didn't help that I was talking the whole time. So thank you everybody for watching. If you want to see more of these goofy videos where we're just kind of hanging out, playing video games, talking about nerdy stuff, go ahead and throw this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Yeah, so again, thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next time on Let's Discuss. My name is Chris.
I'm Gary.
We'll see you next time.